Hello and welcome to Performance Analytics Academy. It is the top of the hour, a little bit after, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Thomas Davis, and today on Performance Analytics Academy, we're going to be looking at KPI Composer. So Dan Kane, who is on the call, will be presenting it. And real quick, we'll just go over some quick logistics. We did the early prezo, so we wouldn't have to go through all those slides to give more time for the presentation and more time for Q&A, but just some real quick logistics that we do need to share. So this is for you. Obviously, all of these academies that we do are for you as the customer. So if there are other things that you would like, definitely reach out to us in the community and let us know what they are. And again, we'll try to do as many as we can on the topics that you're looking for. This is being recorded, so if your company has issue with that, you may want to drop off now, but it is being recorded, and we'll actually put this out on our YouTube channel and also out into the community so you can watch it again or whenever you need it. And of course, we will have a Q&A session at the end, but there's also a Q&A as part of the Zoom call. So if you have a question, please utilize that. And if we can answer the question as Dan is presenting, we'll do that. If we can't, then we'll wait after he is done, and then we'll direct those questions directly to Dan. So again, I am Thomas Davis. You all probably heard from me before, and this is the amazing Dan Kane, highly intelligent person that's going to share some great information with us today. Like I said, about KPI Composer. And the other big thing is be aware that Knowledge 21 is coming. So go ahead and prepare for that now. Start talking with your organizations if this is something that you're looking at doing. We will have some content in Knowledge 21, so look for that as well. And like I said, just be prepared and ready to go with that. So with that, as I said, we're going to look at KPI Composer today. And Dan, if you're ready, you can take over sharing.
Yeah, all right. I will share my screen now. Thanks, Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me make sure I got the right screen. That's always the trickiest part here, right? I think I am sharing the slide. You
are sharing.
Right. All right, great. Thanks. Thank you, guys. As Thomas said, my name is Dan Kane. I am I'm a outbound product manager within the Now Intelligence business unit. So my role is to meet with customers specifically and talk about and help them plan strategies and plans for their performance analytics and their analytics and dashboarding programs. And I've been with ServiceNow actually just this week. Depends who you asked. This week or 2 weeks ago was my 8-year anniversary. So I've been here just over 8 years now. I've probably worked with, I think we're getting to a point now, I think I've probably worked with over 100 different customers on whether it was me doing the implementation back in some of my earlier years with ServiceNow, or as kind of doing this consulting on strategy around implementations as I've been doing more recently. So I've been working with PA really since we bought this product. We bought the company Mirror 42 back in 2013. So I've been working with performance analytics since that time. So let's get into this. And what we're talking about today is the KPI Composer, which is I found to be really an invaluable tool within really the whole dashboard program. As we look at that, I want you to think about this statement from Eli Goldratt. He was the guy who wrote The Goal. If you're familiar with the book, if you have not, read it. It's a fantastic book on process. It's specifically in the context of manufacturing process management, but it has some fantastic information on just processes in general and how we handle measurements. But the keys in here really is, but measurements should induce the parts to do what is good for the whole, and measurements should direct managers to those parts that need attention. The theme that really jumps out to me here is action. Measurement should, for my fulfiller level, it should induce them to do what is good for the whole. And for the management level, it should point out to me as a manager what parts need my attention. Have you ever been asked a question something along the lines of, can you build me a report that looks like X, that just looks like this? My chances are pretty good that you have at some point or another. And really, that's what we want to focus on here, is looking at how do we get away from that purely kind of the order taker mentality of build me a chart, to really looking at what do you want to measure? What is the action that you want to create, that you want to trigger with these measurements? And so as a report builder, I become more of a consultant with the business rather than just a tell me what you want to see. I'll do a brief look through how we look at the KPI model from a ServiceNow perspective. So we can see how the KPI composer fits in with the whole. So a couple of slides. Some of these many of you may have seen in the past, but it's hopefully a good quick review. When we look at what makes up a KPI, or a key performance indicator, we say that really we look at it from a very much a top-down perspective. Organizationally, we have a mission and a vision. From that mission and vision, on an annual basis, quarterly basis, sometimes it's at a 5-year or 3-year strategic plan, we define outcomes. These would be like our business goals. What are some of the specific outcomes that we want to get within the business over a period of time? From those outcomes, from an individual outcome, we can say that I want to, I need to do some specific things to reach that outcome, critical success factors. So this is where we start getting into some level of measurement. How do we know that we have succeeded or not succeeded at this outcome? That's by critical success factors. And then from each critical success factor, we have the key performance indicators, which is more of the active measurement to tell me, what do I need to do in order to make this critical success factor better in order to reach it? And we look at it from the way you want to really look at it is the mission and vision is we set the tone, articulate a need. Within the outcomes, this is the business goal. We determine the desired business outcomes that we want to get from measurement. And then finally, the critical success factors and KPIs are, how do you know that you've achieved the outcomes? So the idea is we really want to start taking this process of developing dashboards and developing measurements and taking it more from the perspective of what are your outcomes and how do you know that you've achieved the outcomes? That's the focus we want on this. Just another model that some of you may have seen before is, we call this the chain of gain, or something very similar to that. So they may call something very similar to that. We have when we're talking about measurements, we have an executive perspective that is usually that high level objective, that critical success factor, maybe even the business goal that says, I want to improve my net promoter score by 5 points in the next 90 days. From that, from the executive level, we go down the next level in the hierarchy to the management service owner level that says, what can I do as a service owner to meet that objective of improving the NPS score by 5 points in 90 days? So we have these items that are going to be leading indicators for a service owner. Increase first-time resolution by 20%, lower mean time to resolve, eliminate reaching out for more information. But the idea is these are all factors that help influence the high-level objective. And then after that, then these become lagging indicators for your fulfillers, your frontline workers. So the frontline worker says, okay, I have a lagging indicator, but to me is something that that I can only indirectly influence, that says I want to help lower the mean time to resolve by 10%. From that, what can I do? What are the things that I need to look at? What are the things that I can take action on? Well, I can look at to make sure that all of my incidents have been worked on at least once every 5 days. They have updates on them. I can look at the number of reassignments I've had for the incidents that I manage. And I could actively see that right now, and I can see where I'm doing well and where I'm not. I can also say I want to just in general avoid incidents older than 30 days. But the whole idea is that this is a chain. This is a hierarchy that starts from the objective. If someone comes to you and just says, I want to measure first call resolution, just show me first call resolution, my pushback to that is then always, where does it fit within this hierarchy? What is the objective? What is the business objective we're trying to reach? Often there is one, but they haven't thought about it that way. If they're, it's because what you're going to have some of your business partners come to you, and they'll come to you with things like, 15 or 20 different key performance indicators. And I stress the word key because in my mind, 15 or 20, there's no way 15 or 20 are key performance indicators. There might be some related indicators that help me understand the key performance indicators. But if me as an individual, say I'm a manager, or even better, if I'm a frontline worker, if I have more than 3 to 5 key indicators that I'm working towards, I'm lost. So the idea is I want to get this into these key levels of what's most important to reach the business goals. So that's just kind of the background of how we look at KPIs. This is a slide, or a variant of this slide, many of you may have seen if you've gone through demos with us or different conversations with us. When we talk about working with dashboards, the mantra I always use is, we design right to left and build left to right. And that's what this model really means, is when we design by starting from that responsive business goal. Should almost have these chevrons going the other way, but I think people think of it more logically this direction. But we design by first, what are my goals? Then within my goals, I want to determine what are the KPIs, what are the actual KPIs. So if you think of that previous slide, it's very much so what are the KPIs that help me reach those goals? And that's usually at a process owner, service owner type of level. And then we want to look at and say, with those KPIs, does the data exist? Do we trust it? If I want to show a top level role, if I want to show a roll up to the top level executives on mean time to resolve, do we trust that data? Is the process integrity? Do we have trust? Is there a culture of cleanup? So when we have things like categorization of incidents, if our resources, our fulfillers, actually changing the categorization as necessary throughout the life cycle of an incident, or are they just leaving it as is, which isn't really helpful for us in getting better and improving the process. So the idea is, once we've mapped out this process, the design, then we look at how do we want to build. So we build from the data foundation. Do we have the data? Do we need to create new fields? Do we need business rules? Do we need things really outside of the realm of reporting and analytics that will help us make sure the data is right? Then start building me a dashboard with KPIs. Once I understand and trust those KPIs, I look at my executive dashboard that says, okay, here's the high level roll-ups. So real quick, so that's just a real quick look at some of these. And many of you may have seen these before. So then I want to put I want to put KPI Composer into that context. So I'm going to say, what is KPI Composer? So KPI Composer is, it's a tool that's available through the ServiceNow store as a plugin to the store. It helps you map business goals to actionable KPIs and visualize them on dashboards. The way I always describe this is I often have, back in the days when we used to meet in person, I would meet with a customer and we'd have a whiteboarding session where we'd go through the process of what are some of the KPIs that are important to you. And we would basically whiteboard all the way from that whole process of the business goal to the critical success factors to the KPIs, and then take that extra step and say, where's the data? Does the data exist? What KPI Composer is designed to do is to give you a nice visual that gives you a nice visual that allows you to have those types of meetings, those types of discussions, and have it available for reference forever, really. It creates simplified task lists for configuration of what needs to be done. So it gives us a lot of tools for that, for what I would really say is this design. We talked about design, this design stage. Design stage is hard because it's usually the one that's the most time consuming, and no one likes that part. So this really helps us streamline that process. Some of the key benefits, I just like to go through this quickly. Some of the key benefits: we document business requirements. That's huge. That's it. So what are my requirements? Align KPIs to actual goals and strategies. Design dashboards with your stakeholders in mind. So we're meeting with the stakeholders to understand what their needs are. Then we build it out based on those needs. We can reuse available performance analytics and reporting content. And as I mentioned, we generate a task list for technical implementation. So it really is just a reusable user interface to guide the dashboard consultation process, because we want the people who build reports to become really that consultant, that adding business value. So where does it fit within the data information flow and within the platform? So as we want to build out reports, we sometimes to get that start, the initial request is, I just want a report that does X. When we want to make that more of that consultation process, we want to start looking back at more of the whole idea of what are our operational plans, what are our strategic plans. So we have a service process or owner that might provide us that. Well, we also have some data science needs that says that maybe outside of the platform that says the in-depth data science is showing us that we really should focus on X and Y. So there's the idea is that there's a couple of different ways where information or report requests come to us. Often it's from organizational leadership with business priorities that focus the driver of each of these. So this is kind of like that goals perspective. So from a service owner, I have a very service-centric business outcomes that I then bring into the service-centric business outcomes. The data analyst gives me some data science insights that I bring into maybe as a process owner or a business analyst or a subject matter expert that says, I have these service-centric business outcomes that I need to work through. So then I have KPIs and personas. So I need to understand who needs these different KPIs, what are their personas, and then I might have an analytics developer that I work with to help actually build that. Ultimately, dashboards are built, and we have a dashboard consumer, one or more dashboard consumers. So, and within the context of the analytics application, we also have analytics administrators and system administrators. So the analytics admin is going to be doing things like, making sure the collection jobs do what they need, making sure we have that the PA system properties are working correctly. For the system admin, we need them involved because they deal with things like system roles, if we need to make table and field modifications, add business rules, database use, et cetera. And then then the whole idea is, in the ideal world, we have that feedback loop from the dashboard consumers to that business analyst who understands what the business outcomes are supposed to be, and that dashboard consumer that says, am I getting what I expected from a utility and warranty perspective? Ultimately driving our digital transformation. Say, how do we start making our business run based upon data and based upon automations? So when we talk about now intelligence, we're really talking, this is really the realm of now intelligence that I've outlined in here is, what the things that we do within these different pieces. And if we want to look at the breakout of the now intelligence, we can say we have performance analytics and reporting within these functions of that flow. We have predictive intelligence, which can actually be, and third-party BI tools, which can provide some of our data science insights. And those are some of the outputs of the digital transformation piece as well. But where KPI Composer comes in then is this in between, this middle part in between. We have our outcomes that we want. We have the process for building. Now, how do we bridge that gap between building, between outcomes, desired outcomes, and building a dashboard? And that's really what we're talking about here with KPI Composer. So we use KPI Composer. We have three primary entities. We have a business goal, again, relating back to that model we talked about before. The goal, in this case, an example might be to become a preferred service provider. It's more theory. It's more of, what is our mission? We have a critical success factor, that's based on that goal. So that defines what a business needs to do in order to achieve that. So become a service provider. I might want to improve my net promoter score by 5 points in 90 days, say as an example. And from the critical success factor, we have measurements used to quantify the goals and priorities of an organization. So some of the measurements we might have to help us with that improved net promoter score: increase first time to resolution, lower mean time to resolve, count the number of open incidents not worked on for more than 5 days. And these are the sort of things that we would look at. But the idea is that they're all tied together. So they come tied together, and the idea is that it's really a flow. So we use these as our primary entities, our primary objects in KPI Composer. And so they flow from one to the next. And that idea is it really relates very much so to that slide we had back earlier on the, we're talking about the chain of gain from that high level objectives to the service owner perspective, to the frontline worker perspective. Stages. We have stages in a KPI Composer project, and we're going to demo that in just a moment here. The stages, we have stages of analysis. That's really where you sit down with your subject matter experts, with your business owners, the primary, who's responsible for the stakeholders, who can represent the stakeholders of your dashboard content. What do they need? So we have the analysis stage to work with them. We have a dashboard visualization stage where we'll usually often work with the same people as well, where we want to say, okay, so now we know what your KPIs are. What should a dashboard look like? So we do some mock-ups. It's almost like wireframing from the dashboard visual. So then once the dashboard visualization stage, then we usually let the business stakeholders step away, and we start looking at the data definition. We start looking at now, does the data exist? Does our workflow allow us to capture the data? Do we need to make changes to the process workflow? Do we need to add new fields? Do we need to add a database view? Where we get that, so we get into this whole data definition. Where does the data come from for our KPIs? And then finally, we have a review stage where we identify what are the tasks that need to be done in order to actually start building. So all of this is before the actual build process happens. This is this design stage that we talked about earlier. So this design right to left. So from this perspective, the business goal, the process, service improvement, the data foundation. So the idea is that this all really fits together. So setting a stage for our demo, let's say a CIO is charged with specific organizational goals, including improving service quality. So we'd ask the questions like, well, how could this be measured? Where should we focus? How could progress be made to be made transparent? These are the types of questions that I'm going to be asking the CIO or the CIO's delegate that's helping me understand what they need on their dashboard. How could he direct the efforts of his team to take actions necessary to improve? These are the sorts of things, these considerations that we want to have. So let's do a demo. Let's look at a demo here of it. And, I think you can tell I was in the forums here. So this is a demo. This is a KPI Composer is just available as an application on the navigation bar. It's its own application, its own module with its own application within the navigation menu. It has several components, but the component that we'll spend most of our time in is this KPI Composer, this initial KPI Composer module. What this will have is all the different, we call them projects. Important to note that these projects are not the same as platform projects within the program and project management application. These are unique within the realm of the KPI Composer and dashboarding. So the idea is that a main business goal might be my project level. And the idea is I would have multiple projects in here. You'd have multiple projects that I'm working on. So when I open a project or create a new one, it's going to identify, it's going to load. And in this case, I've got some information already in here. But the point is that we're still ultimately working with this model of the business goal, the critical success factor to one or more measurements. That's really our point here with our KPI composer. So, and this is just a simple drag and drop. So if I have a new business goal, I just drag my business goal onto my visual designer and say, this is, so we do something like this. So we have, and we can put in details and much details we want to about it. We can even do things like assign ownership of it. These are all optional. Maybe there are already knowledge articles that are related to what it is we're looking for that I can use. It's all the information that I might need to provide to a dashboard builder so they have the correct information they need to build the dashboard that the stakeholders ultimately need. So that's what I do with these. I'm going to remove this one. I just want to show an example of it. So then so in this case, I have my goal of to improve CSAT by 1 point. Let's say my customer satisfaction from a 3.2 to a 4.2, something like that. I don't know. Oh, here's my example: 7.3 to 8.3 or better by Q2 2021. So the idea is this was a critical success factor that was just dragged on top of the business goal to say this is now a critical success factor related to this goal. And within that critical success factor, I can always reopen them. Similarly, I still have the whole idea that I can put in a more detailed description. I can add knowledge articles. I can say who is the owner of this. I can have, who's the owner of this particular one. So again, as a report builder or as a dashboard builder, I know who to go back and ask if I need information about what it is we're really trying to accomplish, if it's not clear from all the information here. And then any other contacts that you might need for this. I could identify personas. Who is the persona that this particular KPI or this particular critical success factor is intended for? In this case, I've identified here, I've got an IT ops director, maybe a service desk manager. An incident fulfiller is there as an option, but they're not turned on. So it's just a simple toggle, turn off, turn on. And then how do I want to group that? So this would be from a PA perspective. Think of this as like the breakdowns that you'd want. So we're trying to put this in terminology that is easy to have discussions with the business stakeholders. And so when I talked about those stakeholders, who this dashboard is for, who's the persona for it, that was simply a matter of dragging in this case, a persona onto that particular measurement, critical success factor. I could drag them anywhere I wanted to, and they become a person associated or a persona associated with that measurement. In this case, I'm going to remove the incident fulfiller, but I just want to show you how that could be done. And I can create new personas, because these are just 3 I have available on this project. I can always create new personas by saying, maybe I want to have the CIO as another persona. So I just create them as a persona, and they're another persona that I can just drag and drop onto any of the objects on the screen here. And what this helps me do is this helps me identify who this measure is really targeted for. The CIO is not interested in the percent of incidents updated within the last 48 hours. The director may not be interested in that. They're certainly interested in CSAT, and they want to know who's responsible for CSAT. So so I may need to go to my service desk manager to say, what are the impacts to our CSAT and how are we working to improve them? But the idea is I identify who those stakeholders are. So think of it from what are the KPIs they want to see on their dashboard, that persona would want to see. Then I do the same thing with measurements. I drag measurements. This add measurement, I just another drag and drop the measurement onto the palette. So my CSAT, for example, is I have same thing. I just have a measurement to say what it is, measurement of customer sat. So once I've done that, and then notice these measurements can be hierarchical as well. Mean time. So within my CSAT, mean time to resolve, I know is an impact of CSAT. I know my percent of incidents updated within 48 hours is a factor that impacts my mean time to resolve. So that's the idea of this. These are all, so it's kind of showing the alignment, the cascading nature. I'm going to skip the dashboard visualization briefly just because I want to show you how this works in with the data definition. Remember, I said data definition is where I now stepped away from the stakeholders and now I'm doing the more in-depth discussion, maybe with my system admins to say, do we have the fields we need? So for a different critical success factor, for my average CSAT, saying, do I have an indicator that tells me what, that gives me my CSAT? And I can select one. Now I can type, I can type an existing indicator, actually, I should do. Can't remember if that's in this demo instance or not. No, okay. I don't want to know, but it's, the idea is if I have an existing indicator, I can do it. Otherwise, I can start. I can, I can enter in all kinds of information about this to say what it is I want to be. Let's see. I'll say open. I'll just to put in something in here. Something like that. I don't know this, but the idea is I have an indicator on this. So now I've got an indicator. This indicator doesn't have to be, this does not have to be an existing indicator. One of the cool things that I really like about this is I can create indicators. In this case, here's a link to the indicator record. I can create indicators that are just placeholders for the actual indicator I'm going to build in performance analytics. So this is the idea, is that this is just providing my builder, my KPI builder, the information that they need in order to build this particular KPI. So what the name is, what the description. Notice if you're used to working with PA, some of these fields may look very familiar. If I happen to already have an existing indicator, I can also link it here. I could link my existing PA indicator, but if I don't have that, that's fine. I can put in some additional notes for the developer that's building the dashboard. I'm giving them some of the properties I want them to use. What the direction, minimize, maximize, what is it? So in this case, it's a formula. What is the formula? And notice it's not the technical definition of the formula. It's just saying what are the pieces that I want to make up my formula. And the whole, and you can even add in additional, supporting indicators to this, but the idea is that we're creating that whole design of it. As I'm building those out, and I'm also looking at the, what I want to visualize, and I'm looking at it from the different personas. I can, these are the different tabs. These are not actual widgets. These are just placeholders for the different kinds of widgets. So if I want to add a widget, the idea is I can add any of them. These are the widgets that already exist. So if I just want to do, these are the widget types that exist. So pivot scorecard, I can add it to, I can, and then also it's grayed out, it's blurred out on purpose because I'm trying to make it clear that this is just a visual representation of that kind of widget. So it's just again, it's just a drag and drop to put the widgets on there. The newest release, the 2.1 and higher series, I also have the ability to add other, I can add other artifacts. I can add reports. I can add report widgets. So these are performance. So I can add interactive filters. I can add report widgets. I can add content blocks. And again, these are just this is just a placeholder for how you want this to look and feel. Ultimately, what these exercises do then is create for you a summary of what it is I'm trying to do, what the whole project is trying to accomplish. What are the PA artifacts? What are the indicator definitions? What are the breakdown definitions that need to be built? Product validation. This is a dynamic process that says, what are some things that are lacking here right now? So if I have warnings, it'll tell me, what is information that's lacking to help my dashboard creators build it. So it's going to give me a nice list of, this case, I have formula indicators that has no supporting indicators. So maybe I need to put those in. So it's giving me a whole list. As CSF has no indicators. It's giving me a whole list of to-dos here of things to validate my project. Then I actually create, what that does is actually creates a to-do list. Now it will ultimately become the project tasks on the navigation bar. And again, this is just a refresh that says, what are the things I need to do? What are the indicators I need to create? Okay, here are the indicators that need to be created, and I can now start assigning these. Actually, no, I'm sorry. These are the indicators that need to be done. In this case, it's showing me that my PA record is empty, so it hasn't been created yet. But the idea is that I then start having I can create a task list, then where I start assigning these tasks and start saying, this is the work that needs to be done. And this is all to get back to get us ready for the building stage. So it's helping us create this visual tool. I use this with customers all the time now as they start working through their dashboard and KPI needs. And so this is it's a really quick intro. What I wanted to do is also reference you to the training that's available that goes into a lot more detail, because this was fairly quick and dirty. It's still pretty quick. It's just an hour, but this is free through Now Learning online class that just walks you through the documenting the goals, constructing the specifications, generating the task, generating the list of implementation tasks, all the way through that, the process of doing that. So that is that is all of the work that goes. This is what goes into using this tool within the platform. So I think we should now go to any questions that as I go back to my demo here, any questions that we might have. Any questions? So what has come up, folks? Adam and Thomas, we have questions that have come up.
So yeah, Dan, great presentation, really good stuff there. There was a couple questions that came through, a couple about cost, and it's obviously free. It is there available. And then there was a question about the latest update, what was in it. So I just shared with them the release notes that told them that information. So that is all that has come through as of yet. It's really around the cost and the latest release. So we have one that just came in here. So, okay. Has there been any discussion on creating a KPI stakeholder role, which would allow the business to see the analysis and dashboard design aspects of KPI Composer?
Right now, the closest thing there is a KPI. I think I can't remember the KPI Composer user, but I think that's a great question. It is, that sort of discussion is definitely in line. That's definitely something that I know I'm bringing to the inbound team for the product enhancements over time. I think we definitely can create more roles for more people to have access to it. So yeah, that's really good feedback to get.
Okay. Another one says, assuming that this will be built in prod rather than transferred across instances through update sets. So can you do it or would you do it all in prod, or is this something that you should do in dev or whatnot?
Yeah, and in its current state, it is something that I would want to do in prod for that. This is the design part, because the big goal for that, I mean, one is it's not real conducive to update sets because it's mostly data. All of those components are data and not configurations. But then the second part of that, though, is within production, I have access to what are all the current KPIs, what are the current indicators, what are the current breakdowns that I could associate, so I know what has to be built and what is already built for me.
Okay, the next one says, I'm part of an international company that has 6 local IT groups within the various business units. Each have their own objectives, goals, and executives. Any suggested best practices or approach to building these out within the product to minimize a maintenance nightmare while also supporting our needs?
That is a great, that is a really good question. Then I think that's something that we're getting better at with KPI Composer. Right now, it is still very much a focus on, the KPI Composer there's a KPI Composer admin that will have access to all of the projects. But then we had that whole concept of the owners. So within my projects, let's have my projects list. I can update and say, who are my contacts? Who is my owner? Right now, it's not. The goal is that it's, if I'm an owner of just like 2 projects, that's all I see on the screen here when I open up the projects list. I don't believe that is active yet, but that's the goal with that, is to make this something to where, this is, automatically limited to what are the, and I think, to what are the projects that I run, that I manage. And so that's really ultimately what we're getting towards.
Okay, great. So I don't see any questions at this point. So before we open it up to general questions, unless there's any more, real quick, I want to just ask thoughts. There's a couple polls that we're going to put up here real quick. Actually, hold on. Let me hold on one second. Here's one more question here, Dan. Let me.
Oh, I think I just saw it here. Yeah. Who do you expect to use the KPI Composer? Yeah. That's another excellent question, kind of going back to the one slide where it's kind of showing where it's in between where KPI Composer fits in between the business definition of what the business is trying to achieve and then the physical build out within the tool. It really is designed to be the business, a combination of the business stakeholders and the ServiceNow professionals, the people who are building the dashboards. So that's really what it's. Yeah. So, and that's, so business, Philip, business unit. So that we get to that analysis stage, that analysis tab, that's one I definitely want to have available to my business stakeholders. Not that they can add the content. If I'm the dashboard, if I own the dashboard from a build perspective, I want to be the person that actually adds the content to the visualization. But as a business stakeholder, I do want to be able to review that and say, is that really what I intended, and all of that.
There's another one here that says, is this usually supported and configured by IT departments or functional departments?
It is generally, a lot of it depends upon how you've built out the governance around building dashboards. Our most standard scenario is where, if I may be the business analyst that is responsible for the dashboard outcomes for a part of the business. That's kind of that pseudo technical. There's somewhat technical or somewhat business. An ideal perspective is that it kind of in that sort of role that is usually out of IT, but not always. So, but the idea is that, this is generally going to be in the hands of my IT department to manage, but with my business users, my business stakeholders as a very, very important viewer of this information.
Okay, and we had another one. Our team is using service catalog requests for our front door for reporting and analytics work. Is there a best practice or model template for capturing information from your stakeholders in a request form prior to moving details into KPI Composer?
I love that question, and I love that question most because the answer right now is no. Because I think that's a fantastic use case. That's I think one of the in my mind that's really one of the things that I think we're trying to push from an outbound product that we're hearing from customers is, how do we start tying in these KPI Composer objects with things like, if I'm using Agile, how can moving them into stories? How can I maybe associate them with, in this case, the service catalog requests? Right now, there is no means to automate the transition from a catalog request into a KPI Composer project, or even an object. But that's definitely, I think that's an excellent use case for us to bring forward.
Okay, great. So if there's, let me make sure there's not any more questions coming in about KPI Composer. While we're waiting, I want to go ahead and put up a poll real quick. And there's 3 different polls, 2 that are talking specifically about KPI Composer. And then the other one is just about interest in future Academy sessions. So I'm going to launch that. And if you can go ahead and vote. And then while you're doing that, we did have another question come in here. So it says, is there a way to get the KPI Composer projects card to stay where you left them on the screen? Kind of a broad question there. You there, Dan?
It helps when I unmute myself.
So make sure I didn't lose you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, he's saying they always render vertically when I reload the page.
They do. They do. And right now it's always trying to do what it thinks is the best. It's always going to refactor for what it thinks is the best visualization given your screen monitor and the space available. So it doesn't right now, but I think that's another good feature request.
Okay. All right. I see the poll questions coming in.
And in the first question with the poll about have I heard of the KPI Composer but looked at it? It should be not looked at it. Thank you, Phil, for catching that. I typed these in. I got it wrong. This is not Thomas's fault. This is Adam. So if what we're trying to get is this something completely new, or it's something something completely new, something you've heard of but not looked at it. Or you've looked at it but haven't used it, or have you used it?
Well, it's good you spoke up, Adam, because I think that next question is up there is probably a good question for you. Unless you don't want to, but I'll go ahead and read it anyway. General question. We are working with CMDB data in Spotlight. At this time, I'm unable to bridge the gap between the CMDB CI servers table and the CMDB CI data centers table without using a database view. However, that prevents us from building an indicator source that can be used with Spotlight. Is there any workaround?
So what I would look at for this, one, the database view restriction is one that we're looking at to get resolved, so that wouldn't be a problem. But I think if I look at this today, and I have not tried this, but Thomas is going to try this and write a lab on it, which is great in case you didn't know that. Use CMDB Query Builder. And it depends what we're trying to do, but with Query Builder, you actually do build tables, not views. So I would look at building a query in Query Builder that answers your question. That's going to give you a very weird table name, but a table name that stays the same even as that query gets refreshed nightly or as needed. And then you should be able to run Spotlight on that because it is a table, not a view. So great question. We'll look that up to confirm that we can do that. And we do have planned for, I think, CreatorCon as part of Knowledge, a session on CMDB Query Builder with performance analytics and Spotlight. I don't think was an exercise that we had planned, but that seems like a great one to work with that. And Query Builder, Thomas, go ahead.
No, I was, were you going to go to the questions that are up there or something else?
I was going to hit the next question.
Okay.
That was in there about Query Builder.
Yeah, so we actually had we did a CMDB Query Builder session a while back, and Adam, maybe you can grab that link real quick and type that in there. But there is one out there that we did, CMDB query building and reporting. So we actually built out some queries and put it into reporting. And like Adam said, the idea in Knowledge 21 is to actually have a CreatorCon where we'll do the same thing, but we'll also go a little bit further and put it into use it in performance analytics as well. So that will be in Knowledge 21. And then here's another one for you, Dan. My only issue with KPI Composer is some of the features do not seem to work. I'm in a hybrid config instance, though. Is that the reason?
Yeah. When you say hybrid instance, I'm not quite sure what that means, though. Hybrid config instance.
So maybe Christian, if you could just answer that real quick, and then we can try to answer the question.
And if we can't answer it here, it probably, maybe you can email or post on the community as well, and we can on the specifics that you're seeing too.
Yeah. We'll see. There we go.
I'm not
global. I'm working within.
Oh, you're saying like working within an application scope, or?
I think maybe he's talking about scope. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Application. This shouldn't actually application scope. Okay, where it would potentially is access to existing indicators if those indicators existed. And okay, that's.
So I think with this one, I would, you might want to post something in the community with some screenshots of what's not working. And then if we can't get that resolved quickly, then a case on support would be perfectly reasonable to put in. It should work. Everything should work in scopes.
Yeah.
But whether you want to put a case in directly or if you want to try it on the community, either one of those is fine, but I think we need to see it.
Good, Christian. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. So no more questions have come in yet, and we'll wait here, but some interesting information from the poll. So, and again, based on the question, I think was, might have been out of context, but 51% KPI Composer was completely new to me, which is very interesting. So it's a good topic that we had today with Dan, and great information that Dan shared. And then what are your thoughts on KPI Composer? And 70%, feel it's seems very useful. So hopefully this academy will encourage more people to use it, to go out there and at least try it and try to use it, see what they can, and get some great use out of it as well. So are there any other questions? This could be about KPI Composer or a general question that you may have. Here's your time.
And while those are coming in, I'll add too, KPI Composer is a relatively new product for us. I think we launched it a year ago.
Yeah, just about a year ago. Maybe
just about a year ago.
Quite a year ago, even.
Yeah. So it's out there. I believe it's backward compatible through New York, so everybody should be able to use it. And it's under. We just had a recent update to it. Use it, try it out, give us your feedback. So the idea portal is there. We want to know how do we make it more extensible to make it more useful for you. So ask questions in the community. Dan's there and he answers them as well as other people. And in the idea portal, if you'd like it to do something else and make it more valuable, please put that in there. There are other enhancements that are planned for it. This is something that's pretty near and dear to us, that I think all of us see the power of this, or many of us do, but how can we make it better for you?
Yeah, and then the last poll, which was talking about future sessions, some interesting stuff here as well. So what seems to be the top with 66% is what's new in Quebec for performance analytics and reporting. And that actually is going to be a session on March 24th. So we'll be able to get all of that information to everyone then. So that is definitely on the schedule. And these other top 5 or so are very interesting as well. So I know that we have a blog on using multiple data sets and drill downs, or I believe I did that actually as a session, but it's definitely something that we can revisit as well. And of course, always advanced widget configuration will be a good one. So this is good feedback as well. And we will definitely get these on our schedule. And some of this may or may not be covered in Knowledge 21. So I would be aware of that as well. So I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we'll go ahead and there they come. Okay,
a couple more came in if you want to read those. One other question came in the chat about out of the box KPIs on SC Task, and I will just say I'm not sure because there's requests and requested item. That there's some having to do with the catalog. I'm not sure if they go into SC Task, but definitely look at the solutions that are documented, and if not, you should be able to copy anything else. So it's always good to look out of box and look what's there. They should describe everything, but if not, the same model applies that we use for incidents, that we use for requested items. You should be able to apply to task and get the same answers you're looking for.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So another one looks like for you, Dan. Are there things to keep in mind before adding KPI Composer in an instance? Is there any roles or additional items that are tuned or turned on or added we need to be aware of?
One of the nice things about KPI Composer, which is also one of the current challenges, is that it's entirely an add-on. It isn't there. It does not integrate with anything else, any other tables. So it's very safe to add. There are a couple of roles. There is a KPI Composer admin, and I'm trying to remember the user role name, but I know there's like a KPI Composer user. I can't remember if it's just user or what. The idea is I would give the admin to the person who is filling that business analyst role, the one that is bridging that gap between the business stakeholders and the technical builders. Sometimes the technical builders wear that hat too, but that's the person, but that's the role that I would give the KPI Composer admin to.
Okay, thanks. And Adam, I believe you're typing an answer to this last question.
I was, but I will. I'll say this as well. So the question is, how do customers, as you're getting started with performance analytics, how do you get started, especially if you're established ServiceNow customer? And the first thing is, welcome. Listen, come join our virtual our academies for some help. The community is a great reference, but the most important thing you can do is take performance analytics essentials. And if you're implementing, you'd want to take fundamentals as well. As details, performance analytics fundamentals was the first 2-day class, instructor-led 2-day class that we've had. That is now self-paced. That just got released as self-paced. And it's free for now, but it will not be free forever. I think we only have another month or so where it's free. So if anybody on this call has not taken performance analytics fundamentals and now learning, go do that in the next couple of weeks. Free, self-paced right now. But again, it won't be forever. But you want to take that training. You want to leverage the community. There's tons of resources in the community about how you go deeper in different features. And as you do get started, once you've taken that training, it's at least essentials, ideally fundamentals, then look at the out-of-the-box content, because you don't want to build something that somebody else has already built. So once you have a decent understanding of performance analytics, you look at the out-of-the-box content and use that, tune that as needed. Then you can proceed to building out more, but you don't want to jump straight to building out more. When you just build stuff out, you're not looking at all the best practices. You're not seeing all the stuff that's there. You're just ending up wasting a lot of effort. But training, out-of-the-box content, then you can build.
Yeah, we'll get that link real quick, and we'll add that into here. Let me grab that real quick. I'll grab it. That came in. Let me see how we are. Well, we got about 2 minutes, so actually we might need to wrap up. Dario, if you could take that same question and put that into the community, and you could tag myself or Adam, and then we can try to see if we can get you an answer to that as well. And then for Jamie and whoever was anonymous, they're actually the academy that we did last time was the now enablement, which actually will go through and give you the links for all of those particular trainings that are out there, and a lot of other stuff as well. So if you go to the Academy page in the community, if you're familiar with that, where you actually got the invite for this, you'll see that Academy from last time, and that actually has a PDF of the PowerPoint that has the links in it, or if you want to watch it as well, it'll give you that information. Okay, so let's close this out here. So Dan, thank you again. Great information, very useful, good questions, something that's going to be able to be referred to many, many times on the community. So really good stuff, Dan. Appreciate it. So in closing here, so, use the community. We just talked about it and referenced it a few times, but make sure that you're, when you put your question in the community, that you're putting it in a manner that is going to be easy or easier for not only us, but also other people in the community to answer that. So if you're curious about the great way of writing a question in the community, here's a link here that'll actually give you some, really good information about that. And then again, as you saw earlier, so all of our recordings are right out there in the community, and we have a YouTube channel as well, and a lot of things are being updated there. but go there for any of the previous ones. We've made it now where there's a little bit of a description there that'll kind of help you to decide which one that you want to look at if you're looking for something there. And then the next time we have indexing indicators, which actually wasn't in the top 5 on that poll. So maybe we need to rethink that, but we'll see in any case. But that's what we're expecting for our next Academy session in 2 weeks. And we need your help, just as we did the poll there, which is really great information, and we appreciate that. If there's something else that you're looking for, put it in the community, put it in a question form or whatnot to us and tag Adam or myself, and we'll see if we can't get that on the list as well. And going back to, again, use the community, catch up on previous topics in the Academy. And then if you have any ideas, if there's something that's not in the instance that you need as it relates to performance analytics or anything else, use the idea portal and get that information out there. And then again, take some training. There's tons of training that is out there, lots of free stuff, self-paced stuff that is out there. So take full advantage of that. The K20 labs are still out there, so take advantage of those. And then again, start preparing for Knowledge 21 if you intend on going. So with that, that's all we have for today. I appreciate it. We went over just a minute. Apologize about that, but we'll see you on the next Academy. Thank you.